The Archwizard will have to remain here in penance for as long as he must. Inkwell. Ink glistens darkly within the small container. It smells of blood and ash. Well, that's very pleasant. Are there more succubi in here? Because if so, Victor's in trouble. He most certainly can't rest and try to focus here. A corpse. Rotten short bows. Interesting. And a rotten heavy crossbow. Okay. Impaled corpse. What makes you so special? A greater amulet of health. Holy crap! Natnig Chesh was one of the first priestesses of Kelemvor in the Moonshae Isles, and became known as the Defender of the Dead, when she helped stop a necromancer from raising an army of undead. As a gift for her heroic deeds, Kelemvor gave her this amulet, along with the secrets of making copies for other clerics dedicated to the destruction of powerful undead creatures. Many a thief has since found these items to be invaluable in their lines of work as well. Holy crap. Well, Victor's putting that on right now. Oh boy. That's, I believe that's, yeah, it's regeneration. That's very rare. I mean, his cloak gives it, but only because it uses the heart of a shadow heart. This book is bound in human flesh, and the edges of its pages are charred and black. Cinder holes have burned their way through much of the text. Read the confessions of the Archmage Karsus. It all began in the library in the rival city of Undertide. And now Victor has the story which wit to write the final story. Write a story to catch the wise wind. Wait, what? See, the wording of that makes him... Victor did not understand why the book was still oddly persuaded. It was asking him to write a story, but he had yet to actually finish the story. And in his mind, that said that he was not done yet. Checking the other book, he instead contemplated the pages. The items that he had acquired within the story still existed. He still had the ink and quill. And in fact, it gave him an idea. These stories had been created in many ways by what was written on these pages. In theory, if the pages were manipulated once more, there was a chance that he would be able to rewrite the story, change the ending. And so, he would try to do just that. The book wanted a story, but he had a feeling it wanted the story to acquire the wind, and Victor hadn't gotten to that point yet. He would see where this would take him. You dip your quill into the bottle of ink and begin. It doesn't take long to make the necessary revisions. With his changes, he would once more read the novel and feel the pull of the ancient magic. And now, the story was different. They were already dead. All of them. Even the great devil. And there stood Sir William Ray.
Hi there.
A different ending from the last, isn't it, my friend? She lives. She bears a face more beautiful than I have ever imagined, and I bear the eyes to see it. Gendra, my lady love, this is Victor von Rye, who saved us both. My beloved Sir William says it was by your hand that he was knighted. For that I shall always thank you. His rescue was most gallant, especially since I thought it was a kindly beggar youth I loved. A ruse, a lover's ruse, sweet Gendra, the narrator can't talk apparently, that I might win your heart's true affection, and not have you simply love the Sir before my name. I know now and forever that you love me for who I truly am. And Victor would simply be happy for them. Yes, it was just a story, but the story clearly had some realism to it, some degree of reality, and so he would state it simply. It warms the heart to see true love blossom. Aye, come what may, true love has found me. And what of you, Victor? Have you found what it was you was looking for? Do you still seek the wise wind? I feel like I just merged their voices together. That's okay. No. Yes, I still seek it. You have given me the greatest happiness a man can know. When you find the wise wind, it would be my honor as my lady's knight to aid you in its capture. And now the story was taking shape. Victor the hero, though he still scoffed at such a title, had rewritten the stories, and by doing so gained allies in which he could then take the great wind and whatever defended it, he supposed. And if he had managed it in the last book, then surely he could do it in this one as well, rewriting the central argument from which bound the great arc wizard. You dip your quill into the bottle of ink and begin, and it doesn't take long to make the necessary revisions. And then reading the treatise, now revised with Victor's suggestions to the story itself. No demons, no sounds of battle or torment. The bodies still lingered, but that seemed a universal. And instead, at the center where the Arch-Wizard had once stood, there was now what appeared to be some form of astral creature. If you seek the one who once suffered here, he is gone. My sisters have taken him on high and console him there, even now. Why have your sisters taken him? My sisters? They have taken him to his redemption. New laws have been written, the old ones cast away. With proper penance and sorrow, the sins of mortal life are now forgiven in the eternal. I had hoped to speak with him, though. And he with you. It is why I stayed here, awaiting your return. He says to thank you for all that you have taught him by your forgiveness. If you seek the wise wind, he said he'd be there when you found it. This music does not match with the situation at hand. Thank you, and goodbye. Goodbye to you, Seeker. Seeker. One more title that he wasn't quite sure he deserved. Similar to Hero. After all, a hero would not have allowed his teacher and his friend to die so painfully. Huh. And it appeared with the rewrite of the story came other advantages. A cape of winter. These cloaks of resistance are commonly found amongst frost giants and other Auril worshipping creatures in the frozen north. The cloak is white and trimmed with white fur. The wearer can withstand extremes of cold weather and magical cold damage as well. Cold resistance. Well, unfortunately, Victor's is far superior, but still. He was about to think that perhaps he could simply give it to Dorna. And he has a feeling that he will be having those thoughts for a very, very long time. Read the Confessions of the Archmage. Though it appears nothing has changed and he can't change anything here, in theory this should send him back to where he originated. Indeed, it all began in the library in the rival city of Undertide. And now Victor understood. The story that he was writing was his own in order to capture the wise wind. Stepping up to the empty tome, he would blink down at the fact that the book was apparently already written. Had it filled itself as he had changed? Well, that was interesting. Fresh ink still glistens on the ancient vellum. Curiously, Victor would read the story that he had apparently written. And there they were, both of them. And the... Alright. And apparently it was not a guardian that they were dealing with, but the wise wind itself. Lightning crackles and thunder booms. The wise wind is a tiny tempest within its fictional domain.
That's it for you. Take that.
And with that, Victor's little battle would begin. Yeah, that's what I thought. Victor has learned his lesson. He does not intend to try to spell fling at it needlessly. Even if it was only a fraction of the power of the golems and other elementals, Victor would not be able to dent the creature with his magic right now. Instead, he would bombard it with his crossbow and allow the Sir William Ray to deal with it in a more physical confrontation. In theory, the Arc Wizard would also be capable of damaging it through his own magic, assuming the AI actually cooperates. It's definitely taking its time. Interesting. I feel like this is going to be a long, tedious battle, so I will probably cut, assuming that this eventually ends. I'll skip to it. If there's anything of note that happens mid-battle, I'll cut to it. No problem. Alright, well, I was hoping to hit record right as it died, but it doesn't really matter too much. My regeneration there. So I just basically had to buff the hell out of myself. That took 40 minutes. And I just had to buff the hell out of myself and just smack it with the staff. The crossbow was not doing enough damage to even kill it. So Victor spent the last probably about 30 minutes or so. The knight died, and the Karsus almost died. And it was a interesting little battle. Karsus, how you doing? You have redeemed me from the pits of hell, Windseeker. The wise wind is yours by right. So Victor feels kind of bad, really. After all, that knight didn't exist, of course, but that was still another loss. He's beginning to grow used to that, unfortunately. And now we have the Wise Wind. The Wise Wind, once hidden in the great library of Undertide, has now been captured and encased behind glass. Legend, lore, and Owl's wisdom when used today. Interesting. But yeah, so Victor used literally everything. There was a chest over here, I think, right? Yeah. Holy crap. Victor, as exhausted and just beaten down as he felt, was amazed at what he had just uncovered. These were incredibly rare gemstones that were potent. You could use them for all manner of different enchantments. And now he assumed, now that the monstrous thing was dead, or captured, he supposed in this instance, he'd be able to exit through this. As he reformed from the story, Victor felt overwhelmingly exhausted. He had never been pushed to his physical limit before, but without his familiar, who was going to be of no help in these fights, and of course lacking an ally to call upon, he had been forced to watch not only the knight perish trying to do right by him and help him, but also the mage nearly died. And to top it off, he was practically powerless against the creature. His cloak had allowed him to bypass this by, of course, getting the control ring with the golems, but now he suffered a far larger threat. The realization that his magic, something that he had relied on and called upon consistently, was not nearly as foolproof as he had hoped or wished. If he continued to deal with enemies like this, he simply wasn't going to be able to manage it. He may have to take a moment to try and figure out a better way to handle these creatures. And now he needed a safe room that he could rest in for a moment. And by that he meant a very long moment. A small room, one exit, it would have to do. And with that thought, he collapsed. It would take him quite a while to wake up again in order to recover his strength, and on top of that, he had to spend time rememorizing everything. By the end of it, he had, of course, managed it, but if he kept dealing with fights like this, he would be in deep trouble. The next time he found something that he could use to his advantage, even though it was going to take up time, Victor was fairly convinced he didn't have much of a choice. It seemed like the rise of the city was going relatively slowly for now anyway. Rejuvenated, at least as much as he could be, Victor would exit it with the wind in hand and contemplate the next area. There were 3 separate areas that he could go to, and this was one. He supposed the next one should be north, so that he could just complete a total circle. Passing the golem remains once more, and then finding the crypt. Oh, fantastic. This is where the Lich was conceivably going to end up being. Another being that could resist his magical prowess. Taking a very slow breath, Victor would reluctantly push open the door and was immediately faced with several trip wires and pressure plates. Fantastic. Well then, it looked like there were glowing sarcophagi as well, and they were releasing magical explosions. Well, wasn't that nice? Let's try an oh dear, disturbed. Wrapped in grave cloths and bound in steel, the disturbed seek to destroy all living things, for only then can they find their rest. Lovely. Well, Victor wasn't a complete fool. See how. Well, looks like he can actually handle them for the most part in melee. Because they're undead and his staff is quite good against that. Though more than one might be asking for a bit much. at least unbuffed. Let's have him switch out real quick. There we go. Now, is there any purpose to doing this? It seems likely that he has to destroy the sarcophagi. The staff is definitely useful, because it's allowing even someone as weak as he is physically to do something. Though he's most certainly getting the hang of physical combat, much to his ire. It's not exactly where he initially felt comfortable. But it's what he's going to have to end up doing, it would seem, if nothing else. Yes, there doesn't appear to be an end to them. He's going to have to destroy this sarcophagus, which is essentially what he had assumed he would have to do anyway. Alright. Well, he lacked the raw physical strength, so hopefully his spellbook here would come in handy. And it did. It appeared to destroy it outright. Fantastic. Now for the next one. And conceivably he could destroy the other one from this distance as well. He didn't really want to go rushing across because there was clearly traps littered all around the area. That wasn't enough to destroy that one, apparently. Another blast. That was enough. Alright. Now this was certainly an interesting little conundrum he's found himself in. How many of these are there? But he needed to destroy them before he faced the undead, otherwise they would just keep coming, and he did have a limit to his stamina. Oh good, there was still more. Right then. He's gonna have to use his staff. He's not very happy about that. It's a bit of a waste, but he'll just have to recharge before he fights the Lich, which, in all honesty, he would likely have to do anyway. Please let this be the last one, would be his only thought. And it would appear to be such. And as he'd assumed, the steps at least appeared safe. Oh, apparently he stepped on that somehow. Not sure. I feel like that might be inaccurate, but you know. Well, time to deal with a bunch of disturbed. Yeah. Oof. Even the firebrand didn't kill it. Yes, he's definitely getting a lesson here in his own weakness. Well then, let's do this a little bit more efficiently. There we are. That'll attract attention and allow him to gather them together so he can do it again. Well, if I could target the ground anyway. There we go. There we go. Much better. Hello everyone, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos and don't want to miss out on future content, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification button. If you'd like to support me on a more personal level, offer recommendations, chat with me, or vote on future series, then consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you once again for all your support, and I can't wait to see you in the next chapter of our story.